We are live. It's Thursday night. It is 8 o'clock. I'm just turning it on like pure energy, even though it's been a long day. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. All right. So we're live here, Living in Jacksonville channel, and just like we are every Thursday night. And we'd love to know where you're watching from. I know we had one person log on, but yeah, if you're watching tonight, make sure you go ahead and let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any comments, great. We love it. But we have a show prepared tonight. What are we talking about, Miss Rachel?
Well, we're going to start off with when housing costs are going to return to normal.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be an interesting one because I don't know. We're seeing rates below 6. I saw somebody today was telling me they get in the mid low 5s with a 20-year fixed rate. So
Nice.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
Let's hear it.
All right. Let me get my screen all set up.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And if you're logging on, tell us where you're watching from. Go ahead and put it in the comments below, and we will certainly love to know where you're watching from. If you're local, if you're from out of town, where you're watching from in this country. Sometimes we get a random international. That's cool too. But yeah, here we go. Redfin news. All right.
Yeah, jumping right in. U.S. housing costs to return to normal by 2030 with stable price growth and moderately lower rates. So I really like this article. It came out just not too long ago and earlier this month. What I think is interesting is the light at the end of the tunnel that they're calling normal, they think by 2030 is if home price growth stabilizes and mortgage rates fall to 5.5%. So that's when they feel like things will return to normal. And just because you're probably wondering, like, well, what are they calling normal?
Mm-hmm.
They're using July 2018 as their baseline. So pre-COVID, mortgage rates were in the mid 4% range and home prices were rising, but still relatively manageable. The number of buyers and sellers was relatively balanced. And the national median monthly mortgage payment to income ratio had just reached 30%, meaning the typical US household purchasing a home would need 30% of their income. They'd use that on their mortgage each month. So that's sort of the benchmark for normal and housing affordability. So that's kind of their thought.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, cautiously optimistic. They don't think things are going to just bounce back overnight or anything. But I think 2030, when you kind of think, okay, that's, 4 and a couple months away, 4 years and a couple months away. That's still a pretty big amount of time, but at the same time, I do think we're starting to see things trend in that direction.
Yeah, it's been interesting, right? I've done a lot of shows like this, and the graphs are they're very up and down, if you will. And as far as inventory levels and whatnot, we're a little bit of an exception because we have new construction. But 6 months is a solid balanced market. Problem what we're having is that we have a balanced market as far as inventory, which is growing. The problem is that we don't have a meeting of the minds between sellers and buyers, right? So I've had a few listing appointments where I have not taken the listing because Mr. Seller could not come to the realization of what the true market value of the home was today. And so I'm not big on just listing a home and seeing, let's see, unless that's someone's idea of what they're trying to accomplish. But this house was vacant and they want to list it too high. And I said, you know what? It's not worth the time. I don't want to drag this out and ask you for 2 or 3 price decreases. So what I'm getting at is that people are still wanting 2020, 2022 pricing on their valuation on their home. And the reality is it's not there anymore. So you've got a buyer that's still, interest rates have gone down a little bit. We're definitely seeing, depending on some creative financing, we definitely see around 6% as a conventional rate right now. And I think, interesting enough, this article is saying 5.5 points. I've always said if we could get into the mid 5s, which a lot of people that are still buying new construction and the builders buying them down to 5.5 or
Right.
5.6. I've seen as low as 5.4. Those people are green light going all the way. So if we got conventional down to that, I could totally see that. And I get it where they're saying it's going to be a while. I think they're really just being cautiously optimistic. And in the industry overall, I'm in a lot of networks and coaching programs. In the industry overall, we're saying, 2-3 years. This is just saying, roughly 4 or something, 4 and change. Nobody really knows. And then we have a really hyper local market. Every market is completely different, so it's very hyper local depending on where you're coming from, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of variables to this. I think what's really cool about this article is what do you mean by normal? How do we define normal, and to who? You know what I mean? So
Right. And I do think it's interesting that the normal baseline that they're using is that mid 4% range. Because I know
mid 5%, you mean?
that's what they're calling the
Oh,
normal.
mid 4%. Yeah. That is interesting. I actually corrected you because that didn't sound right to me at all.
Right. So yeah, no, in 2018, I guess that was what they're, using as a benchmark for what was sort of normal. But so I do think that's interesting because I know, they're talking about mortgage rates getting to 5.5%. And I think that's just where they feel like that, that balance point hits,
Yeah.
where sellers are going to be satisfied with what their houses sell for and what they can buy also, turn around because they have to live somewhere too. They got to turn around and buy something. So I think that's where that balance point is what they're saying.
Yeah. And there's still a lot of development in the pipeline, and there's still a belief that we have a shortage of housing in this country. So I think it's just an affordability problem we're having here. It's not that we don't have buyers, we just have an affordability problem. I don't think 4% is normal, but I mean, if you look back at when rates were down to 2.5, 2.9%, which we locked in, yeah, maybe it sounds normal, but heck, my first house I bought was 6.25%, 30-year, and I was happy with that.
I
So
think that's what mine was too when I first I bought a condo in Atlanta.
yeah.
And it was right before the bubble popped. So I had to, hold on to it for a little longer than I wanted to, really. And I became an unexpected landlord for a little while.
Yeah.
And then we kind of had to wait for the market to return. So, but on that note, this article does say the path back to normal housing costs doesn't require a crash in home prices. Stability may be enough. So I don't think we're looking at like a crash to kind of level things out, at least according to the Redfin expert,
Yeah.
senior economist expert. But, with mortgage rates hopefully on the decline, and maybe if prices just hold steady for a little bit, and maybe sellers just sort of wrap their heads around like, okay, we're not getting quite the return on this investment that we were getting a couple years ago,
No, we have a lot of unexpected landlords now as well, that if they're not getting what they think they should get, or they bought at the by peak of the market building in 20 or closed in 21, 22, they are having to be landlords. Otherwise, they're going to take a 30% hit on those people that purchase at the peak. The big thing though that people need to understand is they're reading or listening to other videos in the market, and they're like, oh, Florida's crashing, Florida's crashing, Florida's crashing. Orlando North is like a second state, completely different than Orlando South. So all the news outlets or anybody that's reporting numbers of the market taking a hit, like Miami, for instance, and Tampa, a lot of the Miami market is condo market, because I have a listing in South Florida. That's where I'm from originally. And I'll tell you, we're not getting a lot of traction on it because the condo market overall, because of home insurance and the single family home, is they're getting killed by home insurance down in South Florida. So when you see these articles that Florida's taking a hit, they're talking about Miami, particularly South Florida. They're talking about Fort Myers area that got completely hammered twice in a row by storm surges and hurricanes, and now they're talking about Tampa. But otherwise, when you start getting in our regions, we're starting to get, not only are we getting relocations to Florida because Jacksonville has such an amazing unemployment rate compared to it's below the national average, and there's so much opportunity here for job market, and affordability is affordable for Florida to still be near the beach. in a major city like Jacksonville. I'll tell you what, we're an anomaly up here. We're not comparing to Miami or Tampa or whatnot. We're a completely different area. So I had folks that I talked to this week, and they're like, well, I'm hearing about what's happening in Florida, so we're going to be very cautious and optimistic that when this next crash happens. And I'm like, we've had people here in Northeast Florida talking about waiting for the crash here for what, 2-3 years now. We've plateaued, and we've had a minor correction, but I call again a reset, not a recession. So those people are going to be waiting a while.
Yeah. I would agree, because I know for us, when we were looking 2 years ago and moved into this area 2.5 years ago, and we kind of had that same feeling. And you just got to jump in with something that fits your budget and be where you'll be happy. And that's what we did. And so far so good. And we've been here for 2.5 years and no longer in Illinois.
Yeah. A recession's when somebody gives their house away and you have multiple options. I don't have multiple options on certain house options right now. It's really limited still on certain things that we are trying to find for some of my buyers. We're still limited, and some of this stuff is still outrageously high in price. And so that's just the way it's been. Hey, Robert, how's it going, man? Watching from Long Island, long time, haven't heard from you. Glad to see you on tonight. Thanks for joining us. You guys getting some cooler weather up there in Long Island? Not going to ask how the politics is. I already know. All right, moving on.
Awesome. Okay, so next article I have, this is from today. Mortgage interest rates today. Mortgage rates dipped to 6.26% following long-awaited Fed cut. So we kind of expected the Fed to cut the rate. Mortgage rates and the Fed cut rate isn't always, tied together that way, but it worked out this time that the average rate on a 30-year fixed home loan was 6.26 for this week, down from 6.35% from the previous week. And during this same period last year, rates were 6.09%. So, and actually the chief economist, Freddie Mac's chief economist, says a lot of the mortgage rates are prompting homeowners to refinance. So I guess some people had a higher rate and they're, going ahead and refinancing now.
Yeah, I literally got a text message from our lender, Brian Jacobs, who joined us the other night on one of our lives. He sent me a text and he was telling me, hey, you might want to remind some of those folks that are locked in at 7% or even bought at the beginning of this year. It's been such a roller coaster with rates that he sent me, and he said, these rates are solid right now. If you talk to your past customers, someone about in the beginning of this year could really save. I just did a 20-year at 5.375%, a 20-year fix. So 30 years have touched around 5.99, depending on the day. But you know what? If you're in those high 6s or 7s, you should definitely be looking into a refi right now, because if you can save a point, granted, you're not going to move and you're going to stay a while. You should definitely be looking at refinancing. That's why I'm glad we're doing this tonight, because some people don't know, they don't realize, because the rates are fluctuating so much. There's so much going on in this country right now. There is just so much going on. We're politically hard charged right now. Our rates are up and down. We have trading wars. We have so much going on, and it's just like people just don't know anymore. We got all this AI stuff. You don't know what's real or what's not. So now's a better time. Like people go, oh, well, AI is going to replace everything. Yeah. Good luck buying a house with a robot, with whether you trust them or not. You can't even trust a human realtor, never mind an AI robot realtor telling you what's going on these days. You really want to know from trustworthy sources who have been in the business a long time, as well as your lender that's just not just trying to refi you, but actually give you good advice, ask you the right questions to give you good, solid advice, what options you do have right now if you're paying through the roof on a mortgage. Or Even so, if you're paying a ridiculous amount of rent, I have a lease satisfaction program. I just got a whole family. They're paying, 3,000 or 3,000 plus for an apartment. Okay. And they had to be in it to the end of summer. I got them into a house where their mortgage payment to own a beautiful home is only 34 or 33. So they're paying an extra $300 a month, but now they're owning their home and they got a great deal on a quick move in here in Nocatee. So, and we're doing a lease satisfaction with them to help them get out of their lease. So there's programs out there that I do. There's lenders out there that are educated. You should be having those conversations. Don't be lazy. Just like I say, you don't pick the first real estate person that you talk to. You interview 2 or 3 to see what they have to say. I was shopping gutters this week. I hate shopping for this kind of stuff, but let's just be honest here. I had 3 gutter people and they all gave me 3 different solutions to the problems that I were having in my house. And I'm like, I'm glad that I did shop around. You should do the same with a realtor. Not that you want to talk to 3 realtors. I don't blame you. 3 lenders. Who wants to talk about your financials 3 times with 3 different people? But you should be getting the resources that you need to make the right decision for you, because you could be saving some money right now, and it's a good time to do that.
Right. Yeah. And in this article too, I know when we talked to Brian, he said that mortgage rates were kind of already trending down because of this cut was expected, this Fed rate cut.
Right. So the current mortgage rates,
right.
yeah. Well, the current mortgage rates, they anticipate it and they bake it in these rates. So that's why we're not seeing a massive effect after the Fed's arrangement. They've already baked it in. And that's why you saw the rates going down closely up to now. It doesn't happen where the Fed's, lowers credit card and interest rates, but not mortgage rates, just like that. So,
right. Also, I saw this number that I thought was super interesting and just lost it. Oh, here it is. 81% of homeowners still are holding mortgages below 6%. So that gives them little reason to sell or move at this time, which I thought was so interesting too. So that's another piece of the puzzle with the interest rate that just makes for a really complex market.
Well, I mean, like, for instance, I've got a gentleman I talked to that watched the channel and everything, bought, and he's from New Jersey. There's certain areas of Jersey. I said, if you ask the average homeowner in some of these areas of Jersey, I think it's Mooresville or whatnot, Moorestown, they've been in their home 20 years. They're locked in at 3%. They've renovated their home. They're sitting in a home where people are lining up outside going, would you please sell your house to me? And that's probably the same with you too, right, Robert? You're up there in New York. He's asking here, is cash getting sellers to move faster, taking less of a price for cash? No, we're not seeing that. Again, that's really, I think he's in Long Island, New York. I think that depending on where you are in the Northeast, yeah, you're getting cash buyers saying, here's cash. I'm going to drop some contingencies. Don't worry about the appraisal. That's the only thing that cash is good for here. People don't care if you make a cash offer here unless they feel like, okay, it may not appraise. The lender won't pay it and we'll have to cover the difference. That's the only time. And so when you're in a market like I'm talking about in New York or New Jersey or Ohio, some of those places I told you that are still hot, outside of Boston, my people in DC area, if you're in a certain area, they're getting cash offers because then they're like, okay, I don't have to worry about financing. I don't have to worry about appraisals. So yeah, I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, look, here you go. This is evidence right here. Robert answering, yes, lines are for open houses. Yeah. So depending on where you are in Long Island, he's got lines of people waiting for open houses. So it's just not equal anywhere here in this country right now. Yeah. Arizona is taking a hit, Texas is taking a hit, and part of Florida is taking a hit. But in other parts of the country here, you got evidence right here. It's not the same. So if you're from those areas that are still hot right now and people are lining up to buy your home, you can come down here and still negotiate a heck of a deal compared to back in 22 at the peak of the market, 21, 22. So it's a great thing if you have that ability.
Yeah. Yeah, all of that.
Sorry, I
Another,
went on a rampage there. I
I
forgot.
mean, I love it when you do.
Yeah.
I think it just goes to show like all the, the knowledge you have and all the background information you have going into buying a home. So I love to hear it.
Well, I get excited about it because I'm excited for those folks that call me that have that situation. I mean, what a cool position to be in, as a guy who does a lot of relocation and buyer's agents and specialize in it. I love negotiating and getting a good deal for them. It's like a win-win for everybody. That's the funnest part of negotiations, having the upper hand. So.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And speaking of upper hand and all of that, home buyers are gaining leverage, but the minimum income to buy is surging. I thought this was an interesting article. Just came out a couple days ago, 6 days ago, and it says Americans now need to earn $114,000 per year to afford a median priced home. What I thought was interesting about this was that we had covered this topic a couple weeks ago specific to Jacksonville, and it is really similar to what they found for cost of living in Jacksonville. The national median was 114,000. The Jacksonville number to live here comfortably is 118,000. So I feel like that puts us really kind of middle of the road nationally.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, okay, that's just interesting that we were just sort of sitting.
It would also be interesting to compare just to Florida median income. I'll look that up there in a second, just to compare Jacksonville, because I'm sure we're not anywhere near as expensive as Miami, Naples, Tampa, if you will. And again, while you look that up, I was just going to say, folks that are still not having to go back to the office, if you're from California where a median income is $340,000 and you can move to this area and you're still being paid that median income from another state, that's amazing. Because let's be honest, Jacksonville jobs, I've heard it from teachers, I've heard it from nurses, some of the healthcare positions, they don't pay as high as some of the other states like Arizona, California, New York, if you will. But here you go. You got the numbers.
Yeah. So Jacksonville, 118,000, Tampa, 123,000, Orlando, 126,000, and Miami, 140,000 plus.
Okay. So yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're not like Miami's a huge difference. Okay. Miami's blowing up. It's gotten really unaffordable down there. I can see that, but we're not really that far off from Tampa and Orlando, which is surprising to me, to be honest with you. I thought we would have been a little more affordable, not maybe in St. Johns County, but definitely in certain areas of Duval or even the other suburbs like Clay County. I mean, if you're willing to live in the suburbs from Jacksonville in Nassau County or Clay County, these numbers are totally different, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Yes.
Yeah. They're talking like very specific areas of Jacksonville. Jacksonville is huge, one of the largest geographical cities in the country.
Right. And also salaries are taking a surprising turn as the job market enters new territory. Now this sort of talks about nationally 327 counties is what they looked at. Yeah, 372. I don't know what number I just said. 372 counties they looked at. And what was interesting is Benton County, which is in Arkansas, where Walmart is, had a big jump in their average weekly wage. And then I went through this to dig for, Duval and St. John's. So Duval's weekly wage, let me find it here. It was in this list at, did I pass it? Hold on.
I haven't seen you pass it, but man, they don't make it easy, do they?
No, they do not.
Okay.
Here we go. Duval, Florida.
All right.
Average wage, Q1, $1,549, just average. And that's a change of 6.8% from Q1 2024. That ranks us number 14 out of the 372 counties that they looked at for Duval. And that, I looked up the inflation rate for that same time period. That inflation rate in that time period was between 2.5% to 3%. So it outpaced inflation on that for Duval. which is great.
Yeah, that's great information. So we are seeing our wages go up and we're beating inflation and we have good unemployment here. So those are all great. That's great data.
Right. So that's a good indication. And then St. John's is in here too, but not nearly as high, which I thought was pretty surprising. I'm always kind of curious, like, okay, what skews that number that way?
Yeah.
But here we are, St. John's, Florida, $1,231 for the average weekly wage. Again, 2.8% change. So that ranks St. John's County 228th out of 372. Again, that puts things about at inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So Duval did a little better. St. John's not quite as good, but just sort of interesting to know.
That is interesting to me to see that. But then again, a lot of our major corporations are in Duval, right? So Florida Blue, Gate, the train company with TSC. What is CX? Yeah, CSX. We have Amazon. They're all there. So I mean, it's not like St. John. We're a suburb, so it's not like those are probably accounting for all small businesses, right? Not like major corporate businesses. Most of the employment is if you're a W-2, you're going to be in Duval, and you may not live in Duval, but it'll be reported in Duval where you work, right? So
that's probably true. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
And again, depending on where you decide to live, you could live a hell of a lot cheaper in the outskirts of Jacksonville, especially when I hate to keep saying it, but we've done so much coverage on the First Coast Highway, man. When that starts happening on the other side of St. Johns River, all those towns like Green Cove Springs, a bunch of towns in Nassau County, Fleming Island, that is going to blow up even more. I truly believe that.
I 100% agree. As soon as it gets a little bit easier to access that area, but yeah.
Well, they're putting a main vein from it that's going to connect 95 to I-10. So we're going to have some serious traffic going through there, but it's going to lively up the area. It's going to create more businesses, and people are going to start going, man, that side of the river is beautiful. I already know people over there who are like, hey, I can get an acre on the river for $1 million. Yeah, it's an old house, but man, beautiful riverfront on the, still somewhat affordable to today's standards, but it's out in the middle of nowhere right now. But now you put a giant major First Coast Highway through there where you're going to have quick access, like you said, many people will, and be like, what is this place? It's actually really nice. This is like traveling back in time, And those people over there are probably saying, oh, Greg, please get off. Stop telling people this. Please don't ruin our town.
Yeah.
Stop,
I know for sure they've got to be that way because I know they really like their slower pace and, they've got their boats and, all their outdoor activities that they can enjoy. And it's easy traffic to get to anywhere at this point.
Yeah, they don't want us there. So, yeah.
But
don't worry, I'm not a river person. I'm a beach person. So I'm going to be staying over here near Nocatee and the new development in Everrange. So, all right.
I like both. I like rivers and I like beaches. So
yeah,
best of both worlds.
Yeah, totally two different things, but little country river. I do go out to the farms out there to go picking strawberries and blueberries with the kiddos, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of affordability, I think that what I noticed too is that I'm starting to see these articles about affordable housing projects, and it just seems like the leaders are also sort of aware of all of the change that's happening. And this is specific to downtown Jacksonville. So City Council approves affordable housing project downtown. I just thought it was interesting. They're basically giving and they have an agreement with a developer to redevelop a half acre of Duval Street in Jacksonville's Cathedral District. And this includes almost a quarter acre owned by the city that the city will convey to the developer at no cost, which is pretty awesome, so that they can build this affordable housing. And I'll show you where this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, what incentive? That's a great incentive for a developer, right? I mean, the city's incentivizing them, giving them free land to say, hey, why don't you come put some housing so that our workforce has something that's affordable to live in? And I think that whole area, we've talked about it over and over again with all the massive development going on there, that's going to blow up too. So there's going to be some great opportunities.
Right. I mean, we have that whole show that we talked about downtown, and we've got Everbank here. This red
Yeah.
dot is where this affordable housing is going to go. You can kind of see in this picture here that it's pretty much an empty lot at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's a good spot so that, it's smart to think ahead that way and to take into consideration, okay, we've got this brand new stadium and we've got all these cool things that are coming. But who's going to be able to afford to live here if we've got, Michelin-inspired restaurants downtown? And, who's going to work there?
For sure. Absolutely.
So that's good to know.
Not everybody can afford to get a condo at the new Four Seasons.
I know. It does look really awesome, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if one can dream. So next up, I have how much homeowners pay in property taxes in every U.S. state in one map, because the next article I have is about St. Johns County taxes. And I just think this is good to see because people always come with the knowledge they have from wherever they're from. So for me, our last house we had was in Illinois, and taxes were high there. The median real estate taxes for Illinois, it says here, $5,089. And then you see in Florida, the median is $2,793. So when I came here, to me, property taxes were like mind-bogglingly cheap. So
it's all relative, right? Where you're coming from.
It's always all relative. So I just wanted to bring this up. I saw that property tax bills in New Jersey, they're the highest. So 9,163.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple empty nesters in northern Pennsylvania near the Jersey borders, and they're like, "Yeah, not too far away. Jersey is $40,000 in taxes, and ours is only 15." And I'm like, "Only 15? Oh,
right.
$42,000 right across the street. It just seems insane, but that's why people are leaving Jersey, right?
I guess so. And then in Alabama, it says that's the lowest in the nation, and it's $786. So,
I tell you what, my brother is now invested in Gulf Shores, Alabama, that area, and I'll tell you what, Arkansas, Alabama, not a lot of people know about it, but some good options. I like to be an open-minded person, not go, everybody needs to move to Northeast Florida. No, not necessarily. I mean, depends on where you are in your life. When I have conversations with people when they call, like I did these empty nesters from northern Pennsylvania, I was like, where else are you looking? That's my big question, because, depending on where you are in your life, what you're looking for. Yeah. Okay. You're not going to go live in Arkansas and be able to catch a grouper, right? But maybe Gulf Shores, Alabama, you could. I don't know. I don't live there.
I don't know anything about fishing there, but I mean, I know it's coastal.
Well, it's the Gulf,
Right.
So they got good shrimp.
Right. I lived in Pensacola briefly in my life, and so I know, like, in the apartment I had at the time was like 1 mile away from that Alabama border. So Pensacola, Florida, and you go not very far and there's Alabama. So you don't think of Alabama as having a little bit of coastline, but it does.
It does, and it's become a popular area, and if property taxes are better in Alabama or whatnot, depending on where you are in your life, trying to keep your expenses lower, then why not?
Yeah, it's something to consider.
Yeah.
I will point out, though, that Florida does not have income tax. I'm pretty sure Alabama does have a state income tax, but
there you go.
So maybe it, kind of levels out there.
So look at all these dark areas: New Hampshire, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts.
Yeah, Connecticut.
And of course, California, even though they're in debt. I don't understand that, but whatever.
Washington. Yeah, California is high, but it's not nearly as high as New Jersey. It's $5,114, where New Jersey was that 9,000 number. So
Well, there's such a swing, right? I mean, if you look at property taxes in certain areas of Florida compared to others in certain counties, it's just such a massive swing in variance, right? I mean, you can't compare Gainesville to like, Miami, if you will, Miami-Dade, for instance. So,
but speaking of, St. Johns County has worked on their budget and taxes. Their whole thing working on this has been that they wanted to try to decrease the millage rate for the general fund. And they did that. But there still will be, people will still end up paying more taxes because property values increased. So I got my little, tax form.
Yeah. Your proposal, what your taxes are going to look like.
Right, my proposal. And this actually is a little higher than what they settled on. So this article is talking about that they were working on it, and then just the other day they have settled on the tax rate. So the total mills will be 6.7573 mills, and that is just for the county taxes. So I know people get the bill and they see all these little, additional things. Everybody's a little different depending on where you live. But for us, what that mills means is $6.80 per 1,000 of a property's assessed value. And that's lower than last year's tax rate of 6.8263 mills. So people are going to hear, oh, the millage rate went down, but how come my bill is higher? And it's tied to how your value went up.
Right. And the only way you can't get increased too far is if it's your homestead property, and it can only increase a maximum of 2 to 3% per year. Right. So those, that's why it's good to stay in one place, because when you buy a property, now you're going to be, your property taxes are going to be assessed based on the purchase value of the house, because that's what the home is what you're saying what the home is worth. So, that's why it's good to purchase a home, make it your homestead, and stay put and stop moving. Now, I know that's not something I should be saying as a realtor and saying you should move a lot, but moving is expensive, folks. Movers are expensive, and you're depending on what your interest rate is or what your situation, you have to really evaluate a lot of things before you just jump into that bigger home at a higher price tag, because you're going to pay for it. And St. John's taxes are not cheap.
Right. Although, like I said, they did work on cutting it. They wanted to cut it more, but with all the things going on, they're building new fire stations, and they need to renovate the county's old jail. They're renovating for county offices. They're hiring 30 new firefighters. So you get the idea.
Yeah, we're having massive growth, but I'll tell you what, the new schools are building at a massive rate are beautiful. I've talked to multiple people and said, you know what? Yeah, our traffic's getting bad, but they're still building a massive highway. They're still expanding Phillips Highway. I mean, they're still doing as best as they can. And I'm telling you what, not bad. If you ask me, I'm personally not, I'm still impressed that they're able to keep up with the growth that they have. So for all those people complaining or whatever, I mean, listen, I have a house in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Go move up there. It's great up in the mountains, but after 4 or 5 days, I'm like, holy camole, I need to go back to some civilization eventually.
Right.
Sorry, Blue Ridge. Love you, though.
I mean, it's a nice place to relax, and it's a nice place to relax too, but it's different, I think, sometimes when you're surrounded by all your chores that you need to do.
No, it's just when you have to drive your kid to soccer all the way off JT Butler at 4:30, 5 o'clock during rush hour, and it takes half an hour to 45 minutes. Yeah, that's the thing that's not relaxing. But
no, that's not as relaxing.
With a bunch of kids in an SUV. Sorry, I hope my daughter's soccer team's not listening.
I mean, I know this is going to sound like very nerdy, but I started playing audiobooks for my kids in the car, and it makes the drive go so much faster.
Really? Audiobooks? What kind of audio? Like entertainment, educational?
Like kids? No, just like kids novels. Like I just go to the library app, and they have books you can borrow, and just find an audiobook that they'll like, and we listen to that. So.
Man, you're like a prehistoric mother. I love it.
I know. But you know
All
what?
our kids are
Everybody
on
has a lot more.
iPad. They were some kid had an iPhone in that car tonight, and they were, I don't know what they were looking back there. I was just trying to drive the car, but
Yeah, no, my kids don't have that. We're not cool like that. We do audiobooks. But and also I dig through the budget. As you can see, I've pulled up the St. Johns County fiscal year budget. What is fun to look at on this is what's coming. So it shows the budget and it shows all the cool things that they're going to spend money on. So 11 million on the Central St. Johns County Community Park in Shearwater. $11 million this year. Central St. Johns County Tournament Complex in Silverleaf, $24 million. Stop me if I'm going too fast.
no, I fell offline for a minute. Forgive me.
Oh, well, I'm glad you didn't disappear for too long.
Okay.
Field of Dreams, that's over by Freedom Crossing Academy. They're spending $1 million on that. A whole bunch of money for the Silverleaf Fire Station. So I love digging through the budget and seeing what's coming. Hastings Community Center and Library. The Nocatee Branch Library is in the budget.
How much is that? 850,000? Or sorry, no.
350,000 for the library, and then the park, it looks like 28 million.
See, folks, every time you take a park for granted, the pickleball, the soccer fields, all that, realize how much it costs before you start complaining. I learned the other day that just to maintain the kids' soccer fields costs hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and another Northwest Regional Park, 25 million. So I just started digging through this just to see what there was. And, you can see utility buildings and landfill stuff. But I think, the most exciting things are the parks, new fire stations, and yeah.
Costs money, folks. It's
Costs
beautiful, but it costs money.
Trails, countywide nature trails, $1 million.
Nature costs. Ooh.
Yeah. So going through the big old budget, it's almost $2 billion that, they had to
Shell out
how to budget.
to budget for. Yeah. That's just in St. Johns County.
Right. And not all of that's property taxes, for the record. Like some of that is like developer fees, and some of that's, grants that they get. So it's not always just property taxes that fund all these things. Something comes from other places.
For sure. All right. We got someone from Duval. Is it Ozzy? Ozzy, am I saying your name right? Am I pronouncing it right? Ozzy, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Thank you for joining us tonight from Duval. Love it. We got some locals in the house.
Yep. And I don't have anything for Duval's budget just yet. They're still working on it. So they're supposed to vote, I believe, Tuesday. So
cool. I can't wait to see that, because Duval is massive, folks. We're talking about just under 1 million population. Just to give you an idea, Duval geographically and St. John's are physically, geographically, almost like relatively close in size, but Duval has a population of about 1 million. And St. John's really I don't know when the last time they count, but we used to be in the 180, 200,000 population. We're more over 400,000. So our population is half. But if you look at a map, we're not anywhere near as developed as Duval County is. But we're heading in that direction, okay, with thousands and thousands of homes and commercial being developed. But we're half the population of Duval. So just realize that when you move here, the traffic's bad in Duval, or this is that in Duval. Duval's bigger. They've got bigger population. So, and St. John's is heading in that direction.
Right. And what I thought was interesting too is I had been reading about Duval's budget, and they keep saying like $2 billion budget as well. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And I wasn't the only one. Somebody else asked the question, how is it that both St. John's and Jacksonville are discussing $2 billion budgets? Well, according to jaxtoday.org, and the article writer is Noah Hertz, he says that St. Johns County has like a total $2 billion budget, But Jacksonville's, when they're talking about their $2 billion budget, they're talking about just its general fund. So, sorry, I clicked the button and I knew it was going to start talking. But the sum total of Jacksonville's budget is in the neighborhood of about $5 billion. So, whew. Yeah, it's even bigger.
Yeah. Well, it's a big city. It should be big anyway. And I think all the initiatives and business that's going to be brought to downtown, it's going to be huge, because a lot of these, when you bring big businesses, if you look at the, all the articles on the Daily Record, Jacksonville Daily Record, of all the incentives and business going on, AI, these big companies, they want tax breaks, right? They want tax incentives, just like we talked about last week. The surf park, one of 18 or 20 surf parks in the world being built in Duval, near E-Town, and the new Ever Range. They're wanting $5 million in tax breaks, because it costs a lot of money to bring big business here. What brings big business brings jobs. What's bringing jobs brings more people here from all over the country, and talent. So it's necessary. And St. John's, I mean, we don't have a lot of big business. We're a suburb. Jacksonville's a city, so the budget should be double or way more. So that's a great article you shared there.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have for tonight. Lots of money talk, but
money makes the world go round.
I mean, it's important, and you got to kind of understand. I always think it's really important for people to understand their tax bill.
For sure.
I saw an article, I don't remember where it was now, but it was talking about how for Gen Z home buyers, they were most surprised by their tax bill, and how it goes up after they buy a home. So,
well, Gen Z, call me up. You will not have any surprises. One of my biggest things I always tell people is I don't want you being house poor, and I don't want you buying a house where you don't know what your expenses are. You should know every penny of what you're going to be paying, and you can figure out to a T exactly what your property taxes are going to be, and you're going to find out what your homeowner's insurance is going to be. You're going to find out about your HOA. You're going to find out about utility bills. No surprises. You should find out everything before you even commit on the dotted line to buy a house. So there's no surprises, because I know how that feels. It hurts, especially also if you're buying new construction and it hasn't been assessed yet. Your property hasn't been assessed yet because it was taxed previously by the builder for a large parcel of land, and you're only paying a portion of that. And then the next year, your taxes are 4 times, 5 times the amount. Don't be surprised by that. Call yourself a real estate professional. It's going to guide you and give you all those numbers up front. Make an educated decision on the affordability of your home and understand what your costs and expenses are. It's really, really, really important. I mean that sincerely.
Right.
What do we got? Interest rates, question mark. I don't know. Did you come on kind of late there, Ozzy? We've been on here a while. We did the whole beginning of the show about interest rates. You're gonna have to go rewind and listen to that part. But what do you want to know about interest rates? Our rates are going down. As I said earlier, we're seeing some rates in the low 6s right now. And my lender today told me somebody refied yesterday, the day before, for a 20-year fixed at 5.37. Is that what I said? Something like that. So definitely, if you're in this high 6s, 7, you should be calling your local lender up, someone you trust, or 2, and you should be shopping a refinance for sure. You should be looking at that right now, especially if you're paying that high. Yes, rates are going down. Yes, they are going down. They are certainly going down. Even though the Fed's announced the rate cut, it doesn't affect us right away in the real estate market, but we're seeing rates coming down. So again, if you're in the higher 6s or 7% in your current interest rate, you need to be looking at talking to a lender right now about refinancing. And if you're renting, you should definitely be looking at some of the new construction deals, because if you can lock in a rate at 6% and then the builder is still buying it down for you, if they give you $30,000, $40,000 flex, you can easily buy down the rate now and be in the mid to lower 5s. I'm seeing it and doing it as we speak. So don't think that it can't be done. It absolutely can be done. So all my people that are renting out there, you definitely need to be thinking about looking at options right now because rates are going down. And yes, for new construction, there are still incentives where people are getting $30,000, $40,000 in flex cash. What that means is that with the real estate professional and good lenders, good lenders with you, we can look at your situation and go, okay, what should you be using that flex cash for? Should you buy down the rate? So your 30-year rate is, spend $15,000, $20,000 of that buying the rate down to 5.5%, and then paying the other $20,000 of the flex money towards your closing costs, so you don't have to come out of pocket too much. There are lots of things you can do, and you don't need to have 20% to come down. I have a lot of people buying houses right now with VAs, FHAs that add 10%, 12% down, even less. So if you're sitting on the fence and you don't know what's going on, call a real estate professional and have that conversation. And then if you're in a home and your interest rates are high, you should be calling a lender right now because yes, rates are coming down. And so it's important to talk to someone you trust that will give you good advice on whether now is a good time for you to finance, depending on what your situation is, how long you're going to live where you're living, all those kind of things. So I think we're at the end. Is that it, Ms. Rachel? We still went. I was trying to cut this down to 30 minutes tonight, and
we can't do it.
We can't do it. I talked too much, and you had some really good articles tonight that I thought were very educational, understanding our budgets here in the counties and how well Jacksonville is doing, both Duval, St. John's. There's just so much job growth. Our wages are growing. Our counties are trying to find ways to bring property taxes down. I mean, honestly, what better place could you live in Florida? And you can still get to the beach in a good amount of time. So that's not like that in South Florida. So I don't think people understand. Yes, we don't have a real big time nightlife yet. You're right. You can't go to South Beach here in Jacksonville till 10 in the morning or 5 in the morning or whatever it is y'all do. No, it's probably going to come, unfortunately. When a city grows, it's going to come. But for all my people that are party animals in Jacksonville, put in the comments. For all my people who are looking to relocate and want nightlife, tell them where you go, because I have no idea. In fact, I go to bed about 30 minutes after the show ends.
That's me too.
We're so
party
boring.
till like about 10 o'clock. And then
Yeah. My idea of partying is like daytime drinking at a barbecue at 3 in the afternoon and going to bed at 8 o'clock.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, folks, it's been great. Thank you for joining us tonight. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. As you know, we're not YouTubers. We're a real estate company. So we're glad you join us every Tuesday night. Videos come out on home tours, community tours. So you can find out about all the different local builders in the area and massive developments is coming. Big announcement, Everrange is starting the next big master development by Park Group after Nocatee. They've made major announcements as well. So I am super stoked about that. And so if you're thinking about moving the area, whether you're moving 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, it doesn't matter. 180 days, it's good to start having that conversation. Let me ask you all the right questions, figure out your situation, see how I can help. And then, of course, if you're looking to sell, if you're trying to downsize, upsize, downsize, whatnot, and you want a true evaluation of what your home's worth today, listen, I won't list your home unless it's properly listed at the right price and it's staged and whatnot. So if you want an honest assessment on that, again, go ahead, text, call, or email. It'll be in the description, pinned to the comments. You're welcome, Robert. Thank you for joining us tonight. It was good to see you, buddy. And thank you all. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.